Welcome, wildcards, to a Savage Universe Thursday. We are joined by a very special guest today, Carl Davis of Tabletop Tango. Welcome, Carl.
Hey. I am like always super thrilled when I get a chance to interact with you official folks. It's like so cool. It's like I feel like I'm part of the community. Happy to be here.
You definitely are part of the community, and we'll have to meet up during one of these upcoming conventions we haven't I haven't met you in person yet, but it's long overdue. So we're excited if you join us. I think Gamehole Con is going to be our big kind of pinnacle outing this year. But if not there, then we'll have to find some excuse to get together and meet at the con. So
I live super close to Gamehole Con, but I'm not going this year. I just can't make it.
Well, if you're in town, definitely stop by. We'll hang out for dinner or something like that. It doesn't have to be at the con. We can find a way. The John Doom might be at Gamehole Con. So let's see. Getting home and ready to watch my favorite. Oh, that's right. Thank you for subs. We generally don't pitch for subs because we're one of those low production value streaming thing where we need more animated GIFs and all like other sub benefits. But you guys keep subbing, which is crazy. So thank you for paying for our streaming software. It's very nice of you. And then Tabletop Tango, yes. One of the best Savage World streaming channels out there. So
we try.
We're going out back. No. That's not. You put the dog out and whatever. So why don't we get started? Tell us, what is Tabletop Tango? How did the channel get started? All that kind of good stuff.
Well, Tabletop Tango is a YouTube channel, all mostly dedicated, probably 99.9% dedicated to the Savage Worlds game, with GM advice, player advice, going through the rules, talking about how they work, giving tips on how to use the rules, like examples. For example, dramatic tasks, how do you run them? What would be an interesting example of that? Combat. So we're really, really, really focused on the Savage Worlds game because we love it. And it's pretty much what I play 99% of the time. So I felt that was something that I could offer something out there for people to enjoy and listen to and hopefully learn something. Because when I was learning, there was a lot of great podcasts like Wild Die and a little one called Savage Cast. And
I'm like kissing up to your host. We did not get through 160 episodes of Savage Cast. I'm just going to put that out there, sir. So congratulations on easily surpassing the master, if that was that little conversation had happened. So let's go on the way back. How did you even get started into gaming, RPG? What was your first RPG? When did you get into the hobby? What was that? What's the way long ago, the before times?
And that's a long time ago because I'm an old guy. I'm in my 50s. So what did I start with? Redbox, D&D, and then I bought the AD&D books because Gary Gygax was, he's legend, and I've got to get him. Took me a while to figure out what the difference was. It's like, what's AD&D versus this box set versus? I mean, I don't understand. I don't get it. Took me a little while in my young days to figure that out. But so I started playing AD&D first edition, ran it at conventions, loved it. Kind of wanted to play other stuff. So I played mostly at conventions and got to play other games. And so, the Shadowruns, the games like that, never got into GURPS, but those sorts of games. And then 3.0 missed 4, and then 5 came. And by then I was sort of like, I don't know if I want to play D&D so much. So so 5th, I never really got into. So that's my history.
I haven't played 5th yet, man. I mean, it's been out for a good long chunk of people seem to like it, but I have yet to actually sit down and play it. The same as you, I think the last, I got in an AD&D, so that the kind of easily art is kind of my nostalgic art. So like, I don't get the OSR and their love for like, I don't know, black and white crappy art. I don't. That wasn't my D&D.
I got to defend the OSR, guys. Not all OSR is crappy black and white art. It's just It's just the feeling. It's the feeling of feeling like you're back in the early days of gaming without all the THACO cruft. Fixing.
That's the thing. I cut my teeth on THACO, so the negative response was like, I was the language I spoke getting into the game. So I missed that OSR boat on the like we want it. It's like, no, man, I had to figure out THACO long before we went back and played the earlier games, and we're like, wait a minute, dwarf is a class. You know, okay, great. What happens if I like can you like multi-class into dwarf? Like so all of a sudden your character is like 45 years old and then he becomes dwarf. Like, how does that work? But so it'd be like to me the kind of the big rich, the easily kind of art is that's me for me where when people are waxing poetic about their stuff. But so I'm surprised you missed GURPS because that's a very kind of simpatico system with Savage Worlds in the sense that it's like, it's generic, it's a point buy kind of thing. There's kind of that's their attempt at balance. I think GURPS goes a little further with balance than Savage Worlds does, and definitely further on the crunch meter.
I have the rules back there, just not a game I play. I have a lot of rules back there that not all of them do I play or have played in the past. So,
yeah, right. Shadowrun's another really fun one. Definitely one that I think should the Savage community ever decide to make Savage Shadowrun, whether it's pro runners or not, they actually get a license. I think that would be one that would definitely benefit from
a rule system
rejoining the fans from their own edition wars into a, hey, come try our system.
A system that works. Shadowrun in a lot of ways doesn't work, but I'm sorry, I don't mean to insult Shadowrun. My daughter plays it a lot, so but its rules could have it could use some work for sure.
Right, it's almost like one of those questions where you have like who hates Star Wars fans more, Star Trek fans or other Star Wars fans, and the answer is always other Star Wars fans. It's like, just everyone thinks D&D has edition wars. Oh, Shadowrun and edition wars. That's a whole lot of fun. So how did you first find Savage Worlds?
I was getting to where I wanted to run campaigns again, and for a long time I was just playing at conventions and played a little bit of D&D with the friends. I ran some AD&D for folks when they wanted to, and I said, I really want to start playing, but I don't want to play D&D because I am fascinated by modern, by futuristic, by post-apocalypse. So it was really cool. I was looking for a system, and I actually for a long time, I listened to Happy Jack's RPG podcast, and I forget who it was, but somebody was a huge Savage Worlds fan, and they talked about it a lot. And I went, okay, well, this seems like something I should try out. And so you look, and it's like a $10 book. How can you go wrong, right? So I went to and I ended up playing a buddy cop campaign with it without any other setting books or anything like that, and I was hooked. I love the mechanics of it and how it worked, and I like that you get to use all your dice except for the D20. You get better, and now you get to roll D8s all the time. It's not just for damage or sneaking or something. It's like you get to roll it all the time. So and it was really well balanced. I just thought it was a really nice game. Turns out I actually bought a copy of it in 2004, but I never played it. It just sat on my shelf. I didn't even realize I had it until I was going through my stuff, and I went, wait a second, I've got the original edition hardcover.
This book, yes, yeah. Oops. I saw that during the 150th episode special. I think you pulled it out for us.
I said, oops. Yeah, but that's when I got into it, and then I was just like, I fell down the rabbit hole. I started bowing down to the altar of Elan, and I didn't look back. So
see, now I know you're one of us because I have been an Elon booster since day one. Even with the nerf, it's still the best edge in the game. If you want to survive, and like especially like a zombie game or any game that's really high lethality, Elan is where it's at. But it's just because it's really easy to kind of dump stat spirit otherwise. People can kind of overlook that one, kind of looking at some of the other combat options, and it's like Elan doesn't let you do that. And when you get to Elan, it's just a great way to stay alive. Because if you're spending a penny, right, it's always either it's a situation that you want to have a success. Like that's the game mechanic. When you're spending a penny, you're telling the game or the game master like, this is important to me. And so getting that bonus is just, that is the way. So before we kind of deep dive into some of the episodes and where folks can start, what your favorite episode is, like, you mentioned SavageCast, and you also said that you have started a podcast. So let me get the name of that out there, and you can tell us like what's going on in your podcast. What kind of topics do you cover?
The podcast is called Mastering the RPG. We are just about to finish our second season. So each season has 14 episodes in it. I do this with Eric, who can't be here tonight, but he's my partner in crime on TabletopTango a lot. So he's a busy guy. And a gentleman who's a professional DM So he does games for kids, and and so he has a lot of insight. He reads a lot, and it's a general podcast about advice for GMs, players. There's a little bit of D&D in there. There's a little bit of Savage Worlds. You can't help it. Call of Cthulhu. So the games we play, we talk about, and it's really what's, I think, different than some shows that are out there, at least in my opinion, is we don't just throw a topic out there and just kind of meander around. We really sit down and we go out and say, well, what's the problem? What are we trying to solve? How do we solve it? What are some tips to do better? And then, lots of opinions and, ragging on each other and stuff like that you'd expect in a podcast. But really, we'd like to talk about a topic. And yeah, 2 seasons. We're just, next week is our season finale for season 2, and hopefully we can keep doing it.
Yeah, well, awesome. You'll have to check that out and expand the horizons. I think that's kind of the fun thing. As much as I think we are all super diehard Savage Worlds fans, I think our community more than others is very open to trying other games and just, I think most of us always come back to Savage Worlds at some point, but I wish this was in Savage Worlds, or I want to, port this over. But I think because our system is so easy, I think we also might have some brain capacity to go try those other systems. So I like expanding the horizons. And
200-page rule book versus a 680-page rule book, so.
Yeah. Well, and folks in the chat are definitely they're super jealous that you've gotten. It looks like you have your fantasy companion there behind you.
Oh yeah. Got it out on display. Yep.
Right. Yeah. Jealous. I don't have mine yet, even so.
Okay. I missed the notification that it was in the mail, and it just showed up on my doorstep, and I went, "Wow, okay, nice. Look at me go."
That's good. I know the global shipping thing's crazy. So, folks, like the fantasy companion is still actively shipping. There thousands of orders on that campaign, which is great. But it also means that our short-staffed warehouse takes a little bit to get through as much as they can get to each week on the various platforms that it's reaching people. But it's been spotted in Europe, so there's definitely the European palette has gotten there, and folks around the country are getting it. And there's really no priority or special treatment. Like even PEG staff hasn't gotten theirs yet, so don't worry, it's coming. But yeah, it is awesome that we've got another one out the door, and folks are going to be able to use it. And I think the reviews are all pretty hot on it, so we're glad that you guys like the Fantasy Companion.
Yeah, Eric and I did some discussions on it. We did a couple episodes already, deep diving into the different powers and the changes, and we were very psyched about some of the power changes and how they rebalanced, and just a really incredible good job on the book for sure. Definitely like it.
Yeah, so I'd be remiss. I mean, I know this is usually reserved for the SavageUniverse, and we all only talk about Aces and Media Network, but since JM's out and recovering, actually, that reminds me, I need to go find the GoFundMe for JM. I will get that momentarily. But yeah, let's get the Kickstarter stuff out of the way so folks can go check that. But there is a cool tie-in with the Fantasy Companion on the Kickstarter. So we are running a Kickstarter. We are like several $100s away from unlocking like 200,000 on the 20th anniversary. So whether we hit it tonight or not, we're going to open up tonight. But thank you guys for being so enthusiastic for the campaign. We've got a bunch of additions, and I'll go over that in a quick second. But here's a link for everybody who wants to join us on the thing. But there's a cool thing about the Fantasy Companion. So one of the stretch goals that we unlocked are edge cards. And these are basically cards that will, they're the right size to fit in the boxes that we're now making for most of our lines. There's a new player's box, which is the same size. And so if you're a player and you want to go through the edge cards and pull out the edges that your character has, you'll have a full description of those edges that you can just slot into your player's box for when you're playing, so you can refer to those edges. The great thing is that you guys all voted, and we unlocked the fantasy card edges. So everybody who gets the top tier, the $150 pledge, gets those for free. There is an add-on otherwise. And then everybody gets Deadlands and Suede Core for free on these cards. So I think it's like over 320 cards that are heading people's way. It's just free add-ons as unlocks if you get that top tier. So
amazing.
Yeah, we didn't realize really how we planned the stretch goal, and we're like, oh, let's do edge cards. Those would be handy. And then didn't really sit down to think how many edges there really were. And we've apparently written a lot. So it was kind of funny because I picked up this whole chonkin board game at the store, and it's like 420 cards. And I'm like, oh my God, we just did that for free giveaways on the Edge cards, and they're big. They're the larger size cards. So yeah, so on the Kickstarter, like a little sneak preview of what's coming out tonight. We have upgraded the Suede 5th printing commemorative edition. It's going to have, instead of just a foil stamp on the corner, it's going to have the Suede logo, and then 2 commemorative bars at the top and the bottom are all going to be gold foil. There's going to be selective debossing and embossing for a really cool textured effect. The gilt on the side, we're going to gilt the sides of the, so like, here and here, those are going to be gilt in gold, or gold paint, something like that. And then ribbons as well. So it's going to be super luxe. It'll definitely stand out. We figured if it's going to be commemorative, we want folks to really realize it's commemorative edition. And so we're upping those. And then the last big add-ons, everybody who's at the physical levels is going to get one free pad of 50 character sheets that are also going to be the same size. They're going to be the size of the book. And there can be a pad of tear-off character sheets. So you guys can have those at your table. And then those are available for additional pads for those of you who love to run or are really bad at making characters or just love making more than 50 characters at a go. I think it's like just $5 for those as add-ons. And someone asked for foil ribbons. We are actually looking at seeing what ribbon options are available if those can be upgraded. Not making any promises because that's all a negotiation with the manufacturers and what they can get in time and what's available. But we can guarantee ribbons. We can't not guarantee if those are going to be special ribbons, but there's definitely going to be ribbons. And right. I wish we could just do solid gold. That'd be so much fun. But yes, it is definitely the gilded edition. I voted for suede, like blue suede, like you could rub it. I got voted down. But and then the last cool thing, there is something that is cool and fuzzy and suede-like. The awesome folks at Norse Foundry, we are unlocking a tray of folding, which is a dice tray that is magnetic. That is, it stores flat, so it can go in those backpacks or just with your nice and flat with anything else that you're storing it with, and then it folds up into a great deep dice tray with magnets. And we're going to have those specially embossed with like the Savage Worlds logo, I think on the inside of the tray, and then maybe a gold stamp on the outside of the tray. Yeah, right. They're great folks. So that's going to be I think it's only $20 add-on for the campaign, and I think that's kind of it for the stretch goals and the unlocks. But there'll be a big update coming out tonight, so check that out, folks. And we'll get back to Carl because you don't want to hear just about the Kickstarter. Also, I think the last big reveal. We've gotten some early sketches in for the 5th cover, and when we get the final artwork, we will display the artwork for the mysterious 5th cover. So that's all new art. It's nothing you guys have seen before. And the sketches look amazing, but we want to show you guys the near final art versus the sketch. So hopefully that'll be within a few days.
But I only have so much money. What are you doing?
Right. I think we're going to slow down the campaigns just a little bit, let people catch their breath. We realize it is tough out there. It is a recession. So I would like a real golden ticket though, and then chocolate suede. That'd be good too. But I got downvoted on anything edible, sadly. The dice tray is a $20 add-on, not included with any of the levels, and. So anyways, that's the Kickstarter. There's a week left on it, so go have fun. The link was already up in the chat. But let's get back on track with Tabletop Tango. If folks are new to the channel, where should they start? Which videos should they come watching? Where's the best place for them to get into Tabletop Tango?
Well, so I actually created a playlist. So there's a playlist called Great Place to Start, I think it's called. So, and it's more on the rules. So it has like learn Savage Worlds in 5 minutes, tips for new GMs, new Savage Worlds GMs, dramatic task rules, dramatic task examples. So it really has some of the core Savage Worlds. So if you're new to it or you're coming to the channel, there's a playlist just for you, so you don't have to wade through 158 episodes to learn, what's interesting, what's not. So. And that's where I would start. And then I would not go all the way back to the beginning, episodes 1 through 20, because the audio is not that great, and I'm not proud of the audio there. We leave them up because we really went in depth on the rules, but not my finest work as far as audio goes. And I write music, and I do I do my own recording, and I feel embarrassed that I released something that didn't have the proper compression and wasn't leveled right. But we were young and stupid.
Yeah, no, it is telling just how much of people very much like great audio. That is, a thing that you wouldn't think of going in if you're not an audiophile, but it is a big part of maintaining an audience. And I still have to upgrade my mics over here. I'm having issues. But yeah, I mean, the amount of work that goes into, I think I'll get to that next is before we get to John Doom's question is what are some tips you have for folks who are either just getting into the podcasting video creation scene, or who are new and want to expand their quality to reach a level of you guys? Like, what are some good tips? What are important things to keep in mind?
So first off, have a passion for it. I mean, if you're getting into it because you think you're going to get some sweet Patreon money, don't bother, because there's not a lot of sweet Patreon money out there. But really just have a passion for it and think about really early on what your niche is, because there's so many podcasts, there's so many YouTube channels. Especially if I think Savage Worlds, you're not going to compete with the D&D ones that have 50,000, 100,000. So, you need to have a passion for it, to have your own niche that you play in, I think. So we play in a niche. As far as recording and putting it out, I do mine on an actual iPhone. It's an iPhone with my nice microphone, my MV7 pumped into it. So that's what I use. So I don't think you need fancy equipment. You don't need to have a digital DSLR and bring it out. You can just start with your iPhone. Good mic though, because the mic's huge. Audio's, like you mentioned, people will rather have good audio on a YouTube channel, or obviously a podcast, than good video, because you can watch the video and you can see the talking head, but if you can't hear the audio very well, it's not good. So I would recommend get a good microphone. I prefer dynamic mics over condenser mics, but I don't know if anybody knows what I'm talking about. If you do, condensers are much more sensitive, and so that's nice, but they pick up a lot of room noise that you don't get with a dynamic mic. So I like dynamic mics, but good mic. You can use your phone. You don't need to have fancy cameras to start with. And then from an audio processing standpoint, learn about compression, learn about noise reduction, learn about de-essing, because that stuff will be important. Compressors are, if there's one thing I can say, it's compressors. Take advantage of those.
Do you use Audacity or another program? Like, what kind of software package do you like to use?
Oh, well, I record everything on my iPhone, so that's where I get the raw video. I use Final Cut Pro. I'm a Mac guy. So I use Final Cut Pro, and what's nice about Final Cut Pro is it has noise reduction built in. So if you've got background noise, you can use the noise reduction. It's got vocal, the ability to kind of pull vocals out. So for the podcast, that's a big deal, because one of our podcasters has a very noisy fan on his PC. So I have to pull that noise out all the time. And so it's really a nice program and it's pretty easy to use. It doesn't have a huge learning curve to do the basic stuff. I'm not making, fancy videos, we're talking A-roll, B-roll, it's done. So that's what I use. And it's got a lot of tools built in. So I don't have to go into Logic, which is an audio tool, which is like Audacity, but professional. So I don't have to go into that to do any work. I can do it all in Final Cut Pro. It's got plenty of audio tools to make it work.
Nice. Those are good tips. And that is kind of the thing, the difference between kind of like live streaming, where you just kind of forego a lot of that, and hopefully, you do it on the fly and folks forgive you, versus kind of the polished YouTube is you can spend, I think what people don't realize is if there's an hour long, show, you might have recorded an hour, 45 minutes, 2 hours. You have to go through and listen to all of that at least once to just trim, let alone trim and then level and then listen. And then, if there's any pops, and then, sometimes removing noise really kills the range of some of the other voice. And it's just like, oh no. And so, yeah, audio is its own kind of,
and it's my job to do all of it. So I do it for all of it. So I'm the video editor guy, and so that's a lot of work. Yeah, it's a lot of work.
It is, right? And it's stuff that for folks who do it professionally, very highly kind of paid work. Whereas when you're doing it as a fan, it's like, oh, hundreds of hours of very expensive work. And like, and that's the one thing that I think too is that I don't know that I've really seen anyone successfully use like Fiverr or whatever to outsource some of that stuff. I've heard that there are folks out there who will help with those kind of things. And I just like I haven't seen anyone successfully use the outsourcing pipeline for all that kind of stuff. So it's worth learning the tools if you want to get into it.
And I noticed that some Cryptwright said Audacity Professional. Ouch! I didn't mean that this Audacity. It's a great tool. It's a great tool. It's just I'm a Logic Pro guy, so.
Yeah. Now we'll try. And then there's a certain level where it's like, paying for the extra software saves you the time, and that saves you like the money, right? It kind of becomes worth it. And the right, yeah, GM James again, like hard to learn the audio stuff, and but yeah, there's no shortcuts, right? It's not like there's just an easy button like make this golden audio sound perfect. It's like no, that does not exist. It's everything's the hard way. Yeah. So let's see. Let me see. Here's a good question from JD. We'll go back and get his first question before, but obviously you're very prolific. Over 150 episodes in. A big congratulations, over 2,000 subscribers.
2,000.
Which is awesome. That is awesome. We will have to celebrate that in some big fanfare. So congratulations on that. So what prevents burnout? How do you keep the momentum going to be able to be that productive on something that's not as simple as just sitting around and chatting with friends? That actually does require a lot of work and forethought too. But that's the other thing you mentioned before is when you guys do in-depth analysis, folks that might not realize it's like that's not really just like, hey, let's get an idea and sit down. Like that requires thinking about it, making sure you brush up on the rules, making sure that you've got good, clear examples. So it's time before and time after. So what keeps you motivated to keep producing?
Well, I think the first thing is, again, I'm doing something that I like. So I'm playing the game anyway. And so some of my videos are like, hey, I just learned a thing while I was playing the game. And so it's easier to do that. Part of it is I'm not looking to be a pro and, become a YouTuber. Personally, I got a job, but so I can do what I want. So that helps with the burnout. If I've got a topic that I think is just something I want to do, I'm just going to do it and get it out there. And so I don't have to worry about, the right metrics and does it hit the right audience? And I like Savage Worlds. I played a game. I ran into something, like I did a video early on. It's like, why do I play Savage Worlds? I don't care if anybody cares, but I care. So I'm going to tell you why I play it. And it turns out it's one of the most popular videos on the channel. Obviously people coming and saying, well, why would I want to play this game? So I think that helps. Second is I don't go overboard with overproducing. Lots of times it's a talking head. I bring up the rule book on the side. You can see what we're talking about now, but we don't get into, getting into, what is it, Elgato backgrounds and music. And if you spend, 20 hours a week just to get one video out, you're going to burn out because you just can't keep up with the flow. But if you're spending an hour or two on something you're excited about and it's the topics you want, it's a lot easier not to get burned out. And it also helps. There's a lot of topics to cover. I mean, in that 200-page book, there's a lot to cover and there's a lot of opinion to provide. Now, Eric, when we talk deep dive on rules, he is the rules guy. I mean, he can keep them in his head and he does the comparison and he invests hours and hours and hours and hours for the long format videos where we go really in depth. And you really have to applaud him. So if you're watching videos like we just got one done that compared all the changed powers in the Fantasy Companion. We compared them to the core book and said, what's the differences? What do we think of them? Great balance. And generally it was just fantastic. He went through that line by line and that was him. Hours and hours and hours. That was all him. So for that kind of video, Eric is the guy we should be applauding. I get away with not doing quite that depth because he's got the brain for it. I mean, he's got the rules, they get locked in there and you can't get rid of them. Me, I have to open the rule book occasionally and look stuff up.
Well, I mean, usually you make fun of people when they're not here, but we're being nice and we're giving Eric a whole bunch of credit. But I definitely know how hard that effort is because part of the Suede, the transition to Suede document Shane, that was like one of my first, jobs for Pinnacle was to go through and document every change from Suede from the previous version. And it was like going through every page of the book and making sure, like, did this change? Where did it change? What page is the linked on? And going through it. It went from like, oh, I can get this done in a weekend to like a 55-page document, I think, at the end of it. And so it is a little bit of labor love, but and some people are very like, I'm more with you in general, like, the whatever the rules say and the whatever copy I've got is fine. Let's just let's play, let's run. If we need to, rarely if we need to consult the rules, we'll pull them out and just say double check. But if I'm running, it's going to be less super strict on rules as written. But there are some folks who are very much like, I need to be running the current version. I need to all the check on all the updates. I have to know what the updates are, make sure we process them all. And
and when you're doing a YouTube channel that's talking about the rules, you better have the book and look at that book while you're doing it, because people will call you on it, and I've been called, and I say it in the videos all the time. Let's learn together. So if I make a mistake, throw a comment and we'll all learn as we go along. So yeah, you need to know them a little bit, though. People will call you on it.
Right, that's true. Even in our own videos, like I think doing the getting creative videos, it's like, oh, well, here we go. That might not be rules as written, and so Clint's there going like, guys, that's not RAW. Oops. We need to pull back. We need to edit that. Although it would be funny watching Clint and Eric go at it on the rules. There are some epic rules discussions. Like it is kind of cool watching, like, especially in kind of more developmental stuff, like like Doomguard, the board game, and just watching the kind of the back and forth over rules debates there, because that's not quite as set in stone as Suede, right? And but it's watching the folks who really have a mind for the rules. It's really kind of fun watching the cage match on opinions back and forth on stuff. And like, we do the same thing with kind of the updates, like, the Shaken update, or, just the recent updates to some of the powers. Like, there's a whole lot of back and forth on, is this thing that came out of playtesting really worth changing the rules for, and having the whole, community have to, change that rule and do the updates, stuff like that. So, being careful is make sure those are ready and tested, and that we're pretty sure that this is how we want the game to play. I mean, I think that's the cool thing about Savage Worlds too, is I think for the 95% of fans who are very appreciative that we do the updates and we update the PDF, frequent enough. There's like the 5% who kind of have this platonic ideal of, they hope the game was perfect when it was published the first time, and that any change is like, it harms their soul. I think
that's just not the way things work anymore. I mean, we have to be used to patching, right? I mean, everything gets patched these days. So,
right. And I think the good part of it, I mean, I think it's, while we would love to pretend that things were just perfect, to me, it doesn't speak to the imperfections of the initial publications. I mean, we do a very hard job going through making sure that, we try hard. And I think we do a pretty good job of going through and making sure that those things are nailed down as much as possible out the door. But I think to us, it's more important that the actual experience at the table remains as fun as it can be, as fair as it can be, as savage as it can be. And so I think that speaks more to the reasons we want to do changes, versus this is an elegant +2 and that's an elegant +2, so they both have to be +2s. And then we find out, well, no, this needs to be a +1, or whatever it is, whatever the changes are. It's less about making the rules appear perfect and then we never change anything and pretend it's perfect and whatever. That might please people who are like, oh, my book is still 100% accurate, versus, to us, it's not important that the book is a religious text that never changes in theory. It's more important that it speaks to the people who are playing it currently. And so I think that's where everything gets play tested, and Shane play tests. I mean, it's kind of like the sacred thing is less the text of the book, and the sacred thing is that Shane and Clint and them, they play test every week. I mean, like that is the sacred time where all the things we put out kind of get play tested. So it's good seeing like your channel come from that same place. I'm like, this is the game I play, so I'm going to talk about it, versus other like, oh, hey, I want to do a YouTube, and Savage Worlds isn't talking about a lot, so let's go dive into Savage Worlds on a superficial level. I think it shows in your content that you actually play the game, and that's a kind of important thing. So let's get John Doom's next question, and you hinted at one of them, but what's been the most popular episode, and then what's one that you thought would be popular, or you thought. Okay, so yeah, what's the most popular episode, and then I don't know if I can parse that second part.
The biggest one. So I did just in ready for this. I went and I did some metrics, and in the last 365, the most popular one is my tips for beginning Savage Worlds GMs, and that's always popular, and that's way back episode 68, because people who want to get into it, they're what do I do? Because that's different, right? And then different than D&D, and then a lot of stuff. The D&D versus Savage Worlds, when that came out, that was popular the last year, but obviously part of that is what Wizards did. People starting to look for other things. So the ones that are kind of the initial get ready to play, those have been awfully popular. But the number one, tips for beginning GMs. And actually in production, the next couple of weeks, there should be more tips for beginning GMs coming out, I hope. I'll cross my fingers if the production schedule keeps going the way it's supposed to. So we'll get more of that out. But those are the big ones. Combat example also plays very high. People like to see what it takes to run a combat, because and I get feedback occasionally that, tests and support, I didn't get them. How would I use them in a combat? It didn't make sense to me. And so showing an example that has tests and supports and everything in it really helps out people. So those are kind of the top ones I find generally on the channel, for sure.
Nice, good. The let's see, John Doom's got this sounds like a very Wisconsin-centric question. What's better, the Racine Kringle or the O&H Kringle? And if you pick the wrong one, he's unsubbing.
I'm going to say all Kringle is good. I like all Kringle. I have not met a Kringle that I didn't really like, to be quite honest with you.
That's good. So. Okay, that is fair. I'm going to allow that. I don't think we need to.
Kringle's just good. You walk through the grocery store in Wisconsin, and there's at the end of the aisle, there's the Kringle that's in the whoever makes it, but it's there, and you just have to pick it up. It's like they'll put it right in the right spot in the baking section, and you just reach and you grab it and put it in your cart, and it doesn't matter. Kringle's good.
So for those who are not used to don't know the Danish pastry, describe what is a Kringle.
Well, it's boy, that's hard. It's I'm gonna make somebody really mad, but it's like a really delicious coffee cake type thing. Yeah. It comes in a ring. It's slathered with nice, yummy frosting. It's got fruit in it. But they're just delicious. They're delicious. So I hope don't unsub if I did injustice to the Kringle description.
Yeah, it's like super good, flaky. Just it's good stuff. Okay. Okay, Crip, right. There we go. We answered that one. Good deal. John Doom is not unsubbing. There we go. You have met the challenge. You chose wisely. Here's a question. Where did the name Tabletop Tango come from?
That's a great question. So when I first punched this idea to Eric and said I want to do, because my all these podcasts I mentioned were going away. They were disappearing. It's like, we need to have this. This has to happen. And so we started thinking about titles, and we really thought, hey, we might do more than just Savage World stuff. So, picking a name that's too Savage Worldy. We looked around, I did searches, and a lot of the interesting names are taken already, right? People, like Wild Eye, right? What a great name. And it was already taken, obviously. And so we said, playing a role-playing game is kind of like a dance. It's a dance between the players. It's a dance between the game master and the players. And we're building up a story just like you would build up a dance. And so we said, what the heck? It's like tango. We're like tangoing, and it's a tabletop tango, TT. Easy to say, I don't know if it's easy to say, tabletop tango, but it was different than what you might have expected.
Right, and T's are yes, they're plosives, so you might get some popping on the microphone, but they're so much better than S's, which just are horrible on the mics. And someone who talks through their teeth or has a slight lisp like I do, oh my God, they're awful. So yes, the T's are good. Very, very good diction and playing on the tango. Venkel asks, what's your favorite genre, theme to play or run in? And those could be different, right? Like, do you have a different one you like to run in versus play?
Running, I like. I'm very much a modern or postmodern or sci-fi kind of guy, which is part of the reason I don't play a lot of D&D anymore. What I like running though is something where I get a concept and I go, how do I build on this concept? Like one of my favorite campaigns of all time is I asked myself, you've heard of the digital darkness, digital black hole, which is if our whole world just fell apart today, all this data that's on servers disappears 100 years from now, nobody would know anything. And I said, well, what would happen if a society grew out of that? And so I did a game which was post-apocalyptic, kind of Victorian, because 1,000 years they're at the Victorian level. So what concept, what genre is that? It doesn't matter. It's like thinking of a concept. If I running a campaign now where it was like, well, what happens if we're, somebody, a great hand out there is like running a simulation on us. We're just part of their simulation. How do we discover that? How do we stop that? Eric, sorry, I gave it away, but if Eric's watching, he plays in my game, but he's already figured it out, I think. So it's really just a concept, and it's usually kind of modernish, postmodern kind of thoughts process that goes into it. Playing,
that's cool.
I would just love to play a buddy cop game sometime. Can somebody just do that so I can
right?
do like Starsky or Hutch?
That's totally what SWAT is. I mean, those are like right up what I wanted to developing for that, because the one, I don't think it's out there. Like there's a serious kind of procedural. There's like a Detroit one that's kind of like, it's like Detroit with a little bit of Cthulhu in it. That's for Savage Worlds. It was published. But yeah, I mean, like 80s and early 90s buddy cop. Like there's just a sweet genre that is just fun to play in, and that's what SWAT is for me. So hopefully now that I think politically we're entering calmer waters where we can have fun playing fake police again, and so yeah, that's where that is. So that's an issue that definitely needs to be scratched. So there we go. Cripwright's got a great name in case you guys want to do it first. TabletopTango and Cash. Yes. Okay. So that needs to be like a one shot at least now. Like I think that's.
We do get folks saying they want us to do actual plays. We've only done a couple of them, so maybe that's one we ought to give a try to.
That'd be fun. Yeah. No, I mean, the buddy cop issue thing. I think it's a great genre. It's a little underexplored. I think it's a lot of fun. It does lend itself to even one player, one game master, or a smaller party. Just because most of those genres literally are kind of the even like one player, one game master, two players, whatever. But like the Scolder and Mully kind of thing is also very buddy cop. It wasn't as funny, but it's very much the by the book laced up cop, and then the odd couple person, the other one who's like all the other things.
And I mentioned I got into Savage Worlds with just the book. That was the very first campaign I ran. Was kind of a two secret. It was more like NCIS. Nice. Two agents who are part of NCIS, but it's there's vampires and stuff like that, right? Because there has to be, and I could just use the book. I didn't need a setting. I could just use the book, and I could run that game straight away. So it was really cool.
That's good stuff. That's good stuff. And yes, Scolder Mully. Yeah. So Scolder and Mully. There we go. That's I'm gonna ruin it now for the rest of the time because you put that little earworm, Mulder and Scully. Did I screw that up already, Valentine, or is that you? Anyways, right, X day till to retirement, and it has to be like less than 10 because it's like always, that is such one of the great tropes of that.
I'm too old for this stuff.
Yes, I'm too old for this. Yes, those go hand in hand, and even better if you can work in like the retirement party during the campaign. But you put them on the line before the end, and then it's will they come back for one more adventure? You don't know. And yeah. Oh, it's so good. There's so many fun. That's kind of the one thing, there for a while there in the greater RPG sphere, and it really wasn't Savage Worlds. It was kind of some other systems, but there was like, I think some people didn't realize that there are literary tropes, and then suddenly when someone finally introduced them to these concepts, they're like, oh, we can't have these anymore. and there was kind of a big backlash against anything that was a trope was just like, oh, that's lazy, or it's like, no, sometimes those are genre defining, and they're things that people want to connect with. That's kind of what it's the cultural meme.
If they're fun, they're fun, right? If it's fun, it's fun, right? Who cares if it's been done a million times? I mean, fantasy, the whole fantasy genre has been done a million times, but we still love it, right? We still love it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like nostalgia is a powerful drug, and it's also just kind of like, when there's very few genres that began in role playing, right? Like a lot of these genres are either from literature or from film, and we want to port them into role playing. So that process is inherently bringing in what are the markers of what defines that genre, what the expectations are, and yes, you can subvert them, to a degree, but that is it's the language that you want to speak, right? It's like when you're going out for Italian food, and the restaurant serves you German. It's like, well, no, I was here for the Italian, not the German. I want pasta and wine, not schnitzel and beer, whatever it is. So not saying anything's wrong with schnitzels and beers, but right, the Conan the Barbarian. See, I'm all for. I would love if the Conan license came back around and Savage World snapped that up, but I think it's going through some change. And I saw that whoever had it most recently, I think it was like Modifius or whatever. They lost it, so that one's up in the air. So we'll see. But we got a few minutes left. I did promise. Let me go find the fundraiser for JM before I forget, because I forgot the last time. So the reason I'm hosting tonight and not JM DeFogi is JM came down with a freak case of bacterial meningitis and was in the hospital in the ICU, almost died. Not a joke, but he is making an awesome comeback. But obviously, between him and his wife Trish, they both work in the RPG industry as freelancers. So the time off and the mounting medical bills and all that stuff. Oh, and then earlier this summer, their son Zane almost broke his back. I think he did fracture some of the vertebrae or compress them, so he got compression fracture. So he didn't break his spine, but he broke some of the bones in his vertebrae. So yeah, it's like back-to-back near tragedies. So if you guys want to help out JM, let me toss up the GoFundMe link, just so because we know you all are wonderful, generous people, and that's a good cause. So here's the JM. It's help Trish and JM recover. There's the links. You guys can go and spend some hard-earned cash, throw them their way, and hopefully we'll see JM back before long. And yes, you go without schnitzel and beer for this week and spend your schnitzel and beer money on JM, and that'll be your kudos, your good thing. And or Wisconsin cracker crust pizza if you can't have schnitzel and beer. So
yeah, maybe from Wisconsin, but I'm a deep dish Chicago boy as far as pizza goes. So
right, see, I'm a New York style guy. So and that's the thing, is like there is no bad pizza. Like that's kind of the thing. I do love like Edition Wars, but it's like Pizza Wars. There is no bad pizza. Like, I mean, maybe ketchup on a Ritz. That would, if you want to call that pizza, that's not pizza. But anything else, anything above then, from like deep dish thick and doughy to thin and crispy. Maybe okay, I do have one. The one bad pizza is there was a fad that went around for people to get real Napolitano pizza, where they'd spend $50,000 to bring over the oven from Naples and just torch the crust, and they'd get like burn on the crust. Like, I know there's a little burn in some Neapolitan style pizza, but the American excess with the burn is just that's bad pizza. If it gets bitter from the burn, that's bad pizza. So, anyways, that's my one. That's my one. Let's see. So now we already got folks, queuing up to Who Buys Who pizza and beer at Gamehole Con. So I do hear Wisconsin's got some nice beers. Colorado is on we're totally on the microbrew like forefront. Like, it's like, I think second only to like Seattle, I think.
Wisconsin has started a nice microbrew scene as well. It's not all, big, huge Pabst and folks like that, right? So there's a pretty good microbrew scene, at least around the Milwaukee, Southeast Wisconsin area. And I'm sure out in the Madison area, there's probably a ton of them. So, and that's where you're going to be. So
right,
go try
and
them
also
out.
the cheese. I mean, I'm a big cheese connoisseur. I love cheese. It's like its own food group practically. So yeah, they get some squeaky cheese. And root beer. Yeah, okay. Sprecher is actually really good root beer. So to get Sprecher, we have to go to like a place called like Rocket Fizz, I think it's called. It's kind of a specialty candy and soda store. And they've got the Sprecher root beer. That's fantastic.
Did a Sprecher tour once, and oh my God, I don't know if I drank that much soda in my entire life, because they got a lot more stuff than just root beer. They have tons of different kinds. So,
nice.
Yep.
Yes. Rocket Fizz out in Arizona too. So yes, you can go there and get Sprecher. It's very good root beer. I'm actually sad to hear that Europeans don't do root beer because they think it tastes like medicine. So like, how like kids Tylenol or whatever, they use the cherry flavor here, and there's just a certain flavor of cherry that's kind of it's the medicine cherry. In Europe, apparently they used sassafras or whatever the root beer equivalent flavoring is, and so people think it tastes like medicine over there. So yeah, right. The Grimace shakes. The Grimace shakes use the same international scents and fragrances, or there's a company that makes like 95% of perfumes and flavorings. Anyways, getting back to the good stuff, we got a couple minutes left. What's on the outlook for Tabletop Tango, sir? You got 2,000 subscribers. There was someone mentioned that it'd be really good if you ran a video talking about like, hey, now that the Fantasy Companion's out, maybe you could do a video on the Suede plus Fantasy Companion versus D&D. That'd be a good one. We still have to celebrate the 2,000 subscribers. So what should folks keep an eye out for upcoming content?
Well, we're still going to do a few more deep dives into the Fantasy Companion, for sure. Probably the new powers is one we want to do. I have some more videos on as there's more people coming in. I'm getting comments that, hey, give more tips. So more tips on game mastering, brand new players, some player tips. I'm trying to get Eric to feed me some of that. He's much more, he's the player guy, and I'd love to have him do some build type videos. Like, you want to do dual wielding? Here's a great build for that. Like I'm a gunner. I like to shoot things, so I've got great builds for being somebody likes to shoot stuff. So it'd be great to do some of that. But I mean, the goal is just to keep going. We come up with ideas, we throw them in, in our Kanban, and we move them across as we figure them out. So there's a lot of cool stuff. We're trying to keep mastering the RPG going as well with new ideas. And some of those ideas I bring over and say, what a great concept, but what's Savage Worlds bring to the table? Does Savage Worlds make it easier, make it harder? Generally, it makes it easier, but you never know. There's always like Savage Worlds make horror a little harder. So the horror companion's a big deal. I just did something on the horror. Savage Worlds makes it a little tougher, with bennies and exploding dice. And so what do you do to make it the horror real? So I just did that video. And that was another one. It's like, hey, we're talking about horror. How do we do horror? And I'm not I don't do a ton of horror, but here's some concepts around it. So we'd like to keep that going. I'd love folks who watch the videos to leave comments on topics they want to see, and we'd love to have more input and see what we can do. We know people ask for riffs. I doubt we're going to do riffs. Riffs is just too much. I don't know how I would even, that would be like a whole channel. Somebody needs to start a channel just on riffs if you're going to do riff stuff, because there's just a lot there. So
that's true. It is. It's whole thing. It is. It truly is. It truly is. My favorite horror tip is something I learned from Sean Preston from Reality Blurs. He in a true horror one shot, he told everybody at the very beginning of the campaign 2 things. 1, your starting bennies are the only bennies you're going to get for this whole one shot, so use them wisely. And 2, no table talk. You have to talk as your characters in character during the game. I mean, obviously, any table talk is like during a break. but we were going to keep it in character. But those two things really worked to ratchet up the tension, because every decision mattered, every melee round mattered. There wasn't that sense of like, I could tell a stupid funny joke. But that's the thing with Savage Worlds, right? I think, and I love this about Savage Worlds. It's my favorite thing ever is being a meta jackass. You can get some bennies from just being funny or sly comments. But that doesn't work in horror, right? Like that makes people laugh and it takes you to a funny place versus kind of the serious place. And so I think the fact that there was no schmoozing the GM or I think he still gave us bennies on Jokers, but there was no like performance benny. So Joker, all those mechanics still worked, but that made those even more special, right? So that came up. So between those two, those are my horror tips. But
and one last thing I forgot to mention, I'm also a musician. So on the site, on the channel, you can find RPG rock music.
Oh hell yeah!
Another niche. There wasn't enough rock music about RPGs. A lot of magical type stuff, but so if you're watching the channel anyway, there's a whole playlist of just rock and roll, things called TPK, Murder Hobo, Monster Manual. There's even one about Gen Con, if you're a Gen Con fan. So I just had to throw that out there because I'd love to have more people watch that.
That is fantastic. Yes, that is a question. So yes, enjoy the music as well, because that's something that I think also brings awesome immersion into games. Is a good soundtrack. If you think about horror specifically, like you put a horror movie on mute, it's not nearly as scary. So right, getting the soundtrack there is another good thing. So folks, check out the YouTube channel. It's at a Savage Worlds GM at YouTube. The RPG chords. There we go. Nice. So Carl, thanks for coming. Congratulations on the 2,000 subscriber. If you haven't gone over there and subscribed, I highly recommend you do now. And it's a great channel. They cover a lot of great stuff that even we at Pinnacle don't have time to cover as much as great stuff as they cover on TabletopTango. And then I think for your future players videos, when we get those players boxes in hand and they're real, we'll send you some to do a giveaway for some of your player streams, because I think that's kind of a cool kind of next push for us as a company and for you guys as content creators, is introducing new players, right? There's an abundance of thirst out there for the big gorilla in the room game for various reasons. And a lot of that is, introducing new players to the systems you guys love to run. And since obviously, if you're watching this, you love to run Savage Worlds. So, our new players books, which are part of the Kickstarter campaign, the players boxes, which are just filled with some really cool stuff. Those are all great things to either gift, or introduce to players so they can get into Savage Worlds, in an economical way. And we'll shoot some of those for you guys to give away for your player-oriented streams. When those come in, so we can celebrate the year of the Savage Worlds player. Maybe 2024 will be the year of the Savage Worlds player. That sounds like a good idea.
Yeah. That sounds good. We'll have to do some tie-ins there somehow.
Right? Look at this. This is genius. Pure marketing genius. So we appreciate folks. Like for anyone who's watching, we're going to be on tomorrow. I just went over to our Twitch channel to pull up our schedule, and of course I can hear my voice echoing. Tomorrow it'll be 7 p.m. Eastern, so an hour before this stream started. We're going to be doing getting creative with quick encounters. I think Tracy's going to run us through a heist, so that'll be exciting. So 7 p.m. Eastern tomorrow, twitch.tv/Peg Inc. And then what's your general? Do you guys have a fixed schedule, or do you just put up videos as you finish them?
We put out our videos every Thursday. It's holiday time, summer, so we might take a break here and there. But Thursday's the day they drop. Mastering the RPG, they drop on Tuesday every other week when we're doing those.
So awesome. Keep an ear and an eye out on Tuesdays and Thursdays for the great content from Carl and Eric. And hopefully we'll join you guys for a celebratory 2,000 stream here soon. And other than that, folks, one more week left on the Kickstarter. Send some money James' way, but he's a good guy. And other than that, folks, we will see you tomorrow for Quick Encounters Getting Creative. Cheers, everybody.